12th, Town of Farragut Community Forum. And we realize it's a beautiful night out there, and we thank you in advance for spending your time with us and for taking you away from your work and family and friends. But we do appreciate having input from the community, so thank you again for joining us. My name is Sue Stool, and I'm the Parks and Leisure Services Director for the Town of Farragut, the best job here. And I'm glad to be here tonight and listen to what you all have to say. I'm going to make a couple introductions, and then we're going to ask you to introduce yourself. We've got a department head here, Ruth Hawk, who's our Community Development Director, is in the back in the green. We've got Gary Palmer, our Assistant Town Administrator, who's back behind the camera. Valerie Millsaps, who's our Executive Assistant and our Technical Director tonight, up here. And we've got Jeff Palmer, who is the new captain for the Farragut area. I think he officially starts tomorrow, is that right?
That's right.
And so he will have an office here in Town Hall, and all those questions will be forwarded to him, so it'll be great. And he'll be here tonight if you want to talk to him at the end. I'm sure he'd be glad to answer any questions. We also have one of our Board of Mayor and Alderman members here, Alderman Jeff Elliott, who represents the South Ward. So, what we're going to do is ask if you all would just quickly hold your hand up or stand up, whatever's easiest, and tell us your name and where you, what subdivision or area of town or outside of town that you live, just so we can get a quick idea of where people are located. All right, you want to start?
My name is Sally Costigan. My son lives in Concord Hills, and I live just down the street in Waterford Division.
Ken Fraser, out of the Village Green.
I am Mary Fraser, and I live in Village Green.
I don't stand up very well, so I'm going to sit. I'm Gene Larson, Vice President of Shiloh Condos, right next to Copeland.
I'm Bill Truex. I live in Bridgewater, Turkey Creek.
Ron Pinchuk, and I live in Fort West Side.
I'm Dave Russell. This is my wife Carol. We're from the Old Village of Concord.
Betty Dick Andover.
I'm Denny Bradman from Andover.
I'm Mary Ellen Reed. I live in Sugarwood.
I'm Gary Parton. I live in Fox Hill.
Gary Schmitz, Fox Hill.
Will DeLong from the villas in Fox.
My name's Marion Holber. I live in Rockwell Farm.
Pete Watson, this is my wife Grace. We live in Bridgewater.
Carol Conklin, Village Green.
A little bit later, you're going to be able to ask questions of our town administrator and our alderman. And when you do that, I've had a request from the Farragut Press and the Shopper News reporters that are here. But if you do ask a question a little later on, if you could help them a lot by spelling your name first and last when you get up, just that first time, that will help them a lot be able to sort of keep track of who's who and get everything down right, because sometimes it's sort of hard to get all that information. So they would appreciate it. And now I would like to introduce our town administrator, David Smoke. And David's going to take a few minutes tonight presenting the Town of Farragut Strategic Plan Summary, and then we'll talk briefly about the proposed capital investment program.
Thank you, Sue. Hopefully everybody can hear me, kind of standing around and talking up here. If you can't, just let me know and I can yell even louder. So I really do want to welcome you tonight. I appreciate you coming out. I know it's a beautiful night out and you've got a lot more better things to do than via the town hall meeting. But we think this is important to get your feedback on what you want to see for our community. Our board mayor and alderman is working hard the last 2 years at developing a strategic plan for our town and really creating a vision for our future and where we want to see the town go. And what we wanted to do is come tonight and talk to you about that vision and talk you through that process and make sure we're on the right track and see if there's anything that we need to change as we start going through that. I wanted to ask a little trivia question though. It's kind of like Farragut Jeopardy, if we can start off with that. And just please, interactive as possible, so answer these if you think you know. Anybody know when the town of Farragut was incorporated? Yes, ma'am.
1980.
Absolutely, that's correct, 1980. I know we've had a celebration a couple years ago about the 30th anniversary. I'm sure a lot of people saw that. So again, 1980 was the year the town was incorporated. Anybody know the town's population? Census just got done. 20,000? Close, anybody?
20,679.
That's really close, 20,676. You're off by 3 somehow.
There were 3 babies born.
That's right.
Gary's been
So we did, our population actually grew 17% over the decade of the 2000s. We were around 17,500, now we're up to over 20,000 just in the Farragut city limits. What do you think our town budget is? Anybody have an idea of how much money our town budget is every year? Any guesses?
10 million.
10 million?
6.
6? Anybody else? 7? Okay. Those are all pretty good. Our revenues are 7.5 million projected for this upcoming year, and our expenditures are 6 million. If this was the federal government, those numbers would be reversed. So we're actually doing pretty good because they require us to have a balanced budget. So again, we're looking pretty good for this upcoming fiscal year. Anybody have an idea what the total value of all property in Farragut is? Think about everything we have in Farragut and how much that equals to. Any big guesses? A lot of blank stares. $2.7 billion is the latest from the assessor's office on what the value of Farragut is. We'll be doing, I know they'll be doing a reassessment probably next year, and so we'll get a better number at that time and new things that have come in. If you think about $2.7 billion, that number has increased 77% in the last 7 years. It was about 100 and I think it was $1.5 billion just 7 years ago. A lot of Turkey Creek, think about Turkey Creek, all the things that have opened up the last few years, that's where a lot of that money and investment into our community comes from. Before we get too far, I wanted to ask you this too. How many of you, I'm just curious, first show of hands, how many of you have lived here less than 5 years? I'm with you, less than 5 years. Anybody more than 20 years that have lived here? You? Anybody in between that I haven't got? The rest of you? Okay, that's good. That's a good mix of different, how long people live here. I guess the other thing I wanted to ask is, why did you move to Farragut? Anybody just want to give their reasons? Yes, ma'am?
I moved to Farragut because my son lives in Farragut. He moved to Farragut for the schools.
Schools. Hear that a lot. Anybody else?
Golf course.
Golf course? We got a good one. Yes, sir?
Yeah. After Katrina, my wife and I looked at somewhere around 60, 65 communities because we weren't going to stay in New Orleans. American ambulance, medical records, population, and various, I think we put 20 categories in there. Measured it, narrowed it down, Fort Collins, Colorado, Athens, Georgia. Here, my wife said she can't live in town with bulldogs.
That just hurts. I actually did go to the University of Georgia, so that's even tougher on me to have to hear that. But I understand, though. Anybody else? Any ideas? Yes, sir?
We moved here from Oak Ridge. We lived in Oak Ridge for about 27 years. The kitchen was still there. So we didn't move here for the sewer, but we moved here for the proximity to something. And we felt, this was 12 years ago, we felt at the time that property was overpriced in Oak Ridge. Good selection was beautiful.
Good. Anybody else? Yes, ma'am?
Well, we lived in Oak Ridge for 30 years before we moved to Farragut.
I think our children have not, they're not really happy or moved to Farragut, but we found a lot that we liked, and I want to build a new house, and so that's why.
Okay. Anyone else?
I want newer infrastructure and less congestion and close in west. That's why we moved further west than where we were looking at originally.
We moved from California because after I retired there, we couldn't afford to continue living there. So when we looked around and looked at North Carolina and Kentucky, Tennessee, we immediately liked Knoxville area about the best because of the appearance of the houses, shady streets, medical facilities. So, and for what we sold the house for in California, we were able to buy here free and clear. So
I've heard that story before from other people in California that are in the room, I think, today. Well, that's very good. Thank you for your feedback. Those are all, it's interesting, all slightly different, but kind of similar, quality of life type issues. Why you moved to this area, why you want to become a Farragut resident. Let me ask you this, what services do you think that the town provides currently?
Road repairs,
Just listen, yes, road repairs, okay.
signage.
Signage. Anyone else? Yes, ma'am.
I think the parks and recreation are extraordinary. I think that they do a very good job.
Anybody else? Services in general?
Code enforcement.
Okay.
Public works, building, community development. I like the idea of methodology. If we have a problem, just call in, get a resolution. Engineering, what we don't provide, police, fire, water, trash, some of the things that are consistent with what a city typically provides.
Gary's got all the inside information on us, being a volunteer for years and years and years with this. This list will kind of give you an idea of all the things that we do for our residents, and you've just about listed all of them in the room as we talked just a little while ago. Snow and ice removal is another one that certainly we do. We didn't have to worry about that much this year, thank goodness. Saved us some money this year. And land use planning is another big one, which we're having another big meeting next week, and we'll talk about that a little bit later with you. So yes, there are quite a few things that we do. There's quite a few things that we don't do. All the utilities, all the emergency services that we don't do. We don't have a community center right now. We talked a lot about it, but we don't have one yet. Library system for counties, recycling, solid waste, animal control, and sports programming for recreational type of sports programming. So there's quite a few things that we don't do. A lot of that's because of our tax base. That's what our services are for our community and our town. Not having the property tax certainly limits us to what we can do. But hopefully we do it effectively, and that's why we're having you all here tonight to tell us what we need to be working on. So with that, I wanted to talk a little bit about our strategic planning model and what the board's been working on the last couple of years. It all starts off with a vision, and everybody has one of these booklets with you. And we'll go through some of this stuff tonight. If you'll want to go home and take a look at it and read through it too. It's also online on our website if you had a chance to look at it even before you got here tonight. But it starts with our vision, which is our 15-year plan. It's the big picture ideas of where we want our community to be in 15 years. And from that, you have to break that down a little bit. So we work on our plan. And our plan is our 5-year goals. These are more attainable, short-term type goals that we work on each and every year, which is part of our execution. And the execution is the yearly work program, the items that we're going to say we're going to get done this year, or at least start this year and try to get done in the next couple of years. So with that, I wanted to show you a little bit about our vision for 2025, about what Farragut is going to be. And it's made up of a few different items. It's our history of the area, it's our beauty for the natural and built, it's high quality residential choices, multiple activity centers. We'll talk a little bit about that in a second. Convenient living, outstanding recreational opportunities, and community spirit that make us a distinctive community. I want to touch just a little bit on each one of those, just very briefly. One is the history, and if you think about history, you think, well, Farragut's only 30 years old, or 32 years old now, as a community, and that's true. Our town is only 32 years old, But we have a lot of history in this area from when it was settled years ago in the, I can even tell you, 1700s or before that. So what we want to do is preserve what we do have. We do have some assets here in the community that we'd like to preserve and take advantage of. Another thing that's on this list that you'll see, and it's been a lot of discussion in the paper, is decorative streetlights throughout the community. You've heard a lot about it. I'll be the first one to say that I'm responsible for not getting the information to you the way we should have about that. It kind of took a life of its own in the newspaper, unfortunately. And what we mean by that is, again, think 15 years out, all right? We're not trying to make any kind of historic lighting. We're trying to make decorative. We're trying to have a sense for the community. When you come into the community, that you know you're in Farragut. It's a different place than where you've been before, whether it's Knoxville, Oak Ridge, coming in from the county, wherever it may be. There's a lot of things that we've been talking about marketing and branding our community. This is just one aspect of that. There's several other things, and we'll see that a little bit later as I'm talking through it. But again, it's just a concept that we like to try to do on our major corridors, our major thoroughfares, that when you drive into your community, you know you're in Farragut. It's a different place than where you came from. Beauty of the natural and built. The board talked a lot about preserving our creekways and our waterways that we have with all Turkey Creeks. Well-maintained landscaping throughout the community, and also having an architectural theme to the community. We have a sign ordinance, and that kind of keeps things somewhat different than when you drive in through Knoxville. But it's going beyond that. It's really getting into landscaping and light and all sorts of different things that you can do to make your community look and feel different than what it is today. We also talked about the high quality residential choices, and obviously the main thing there is it's keeping attractive residential for the community, maintaining your property values, and having proactive code compliance to make sure that we're keeping your property values up, that we're not having problem areas that people are complaining about, and hopefully making sure they're well maintained. Multiple activity centers. This is the concept of basically thinking about, in 15 years, we have a lot of them already. Turkey Creek, Dixie Lee Junction, West End Plaza, the Renaissance Center, the I-40 and the I-40 and Camel Station interchange up there. And so it's taking advantage of those areas, thinking about how they can develop or even redevelop in the future, and what we can do to really maximize our opportunities in those different areas. Another one's going to be historic Concord. They're not in the town of Farragut, but it is in our annexation reserve area, which is just a big word to say that they could be in Farragut someday. So we don't know exactly if that would happen or when that would happen or anything else yet. But the board's had a lot of discussion around it, and we really want to try to preserve that old Concord area. It's just such a gem of the community. Convenient living is self-contained community where residents can enjoy easy access to shopping, restaurants, entertainment, worship, and schools within minutes of home. Kind of sums it up. Convenient living. Being where you can get everything you need right there. Outstanding recreational opportunities. We talked a lot about community center, and in the next 15 years, wanting to have a community center in our community. That may include aquatic facilities as well. I think there's not a lot of those around the area. Excellent athletic fields for major tournaments. We can get them here, that they're good economic generators for us. And also a performing arts venue. We don't have a theater or anything like that in town, so trying to come up with some concept for that, for cultural arts. And the final thing is community spirit. We've got a lot of events that we do throughout the year. Red, White, and Blues, July 4th, there's a Taste of Farragut, not only that we do, but that we work with different organizations to put on those with us, and we're co-sponsors of them. And it's just trying to take advantage of those, make them even bigger and better, add to whatever we can do, and get the community more involved, and just have that sense of community spirit. So those are all of our main big vision items. Again, 15-year items, they're not going to necessarily happen overnight, but we want to try to see if we can't slowly try to get our way there over time. So in order to get there, as I talked about before, we have 5-year goals. We have items that we're trying to get to, and we think we can reach and solve the next 5 years. Each of these items I'll go through individually, and again, each of them are in your books. I want to hit just a couple items under each one of these spots. Maintain a financially sound town. I think obviously that's important. We have to make sure that we maintain a financially sound town. Cities all over the country are struggling right now with their revenues. We have had cities go bankrupt. I think some of you may have heard of Jefferson County, Alabama, the largest municipal bankruptcy in U.S. history, just occurred about a year ago now. So, there's definitely some cities out there that are struggling. Fortunately for us, we have not been one of those cities. We've been able to maintain our current service levels without having to reduce staff or reduce any kind of things that we do on a daily basis. Some of the things that we're talking about for the future are big ticket items in our CIP, which is our capital investment plan. It's our big projects. Think about things that's basically we spend a lot of money on. And one of the ways to do that is to have a responsible use of debt by our town. Right now we have no debt. Our city's debt free. There's not many cities that can say that either. But at the same time, debt's not necessarily bad. You just have to be able to be very wise about it when you're going forward. We talked about adequate revenues to support our services. Talked about high customer satisfaction for those services, and having a well-planned and maintained town facilities and infrastructure as well. Next item is strengthening the local economy. With town, we don't have property tax. So we have to do whatever we can with our businesses to really help boost them and recruit retail investment here to our town. We do a lot of that. We have a lot of, it's one of our priorities in our budget this year is to make sure we can get those retailers to come in. And hopefully you as citizens spend your money here first before you have to go somewhere else, but we don't necessarily have everything that everybody ever wants. So again, it's increasing the number of visitors coming to Farragut. It's people shopping local, shop Farragut. You've seen that a lot, hopefully in the last couple of years. It's increasing our sales tax revenues, increasing our tax base in general, and increasing heads and beds in motels and hotels. Those folks spend a lot of money when they're coming through our community. We have quite a few hotels right here on Campbell Station Road that sort of fill us out, and those folks tend to go to Turkey Creek and shop and do all those different things. So again, strengthening our local economy is certainly important for us moving forward. Another 5-year goal is developing our historic assets. We have a great museum. If you haven't been there before, they're open 10 to 4:30 Monday through Friday, right across the hall, Farragut Folk Life Museum. And taking advantage of that, building that up, making that even bigger and better in the future is certainly important in the next 5 years. We've talked a lot about the Russell House, which is the historic home right here on the corner of Camel Station and Kingston Pike. What we're going to do with that home. We're going to move it, or we're going to buy it. It's still up in the air what we can do with the family interests are. But again, something that we want to do, at least preserve that home. Looking at Concord Village and preserving that area. Developing Camel Station Park and having some historical signs there. It's a good point.
Well, we have, I can guarantee everybody here that 2 years was spent on this project, and that a lot of time was spent with a lot of citizens on the committee.
I've read in the paper about there being not many people having responded to a survey that was made available. I never heard of it.
It was advertised on the town website, in the newspapers, and people were calling. I know I called
Well, I went
neighborhood.
to every community center thing that I was informed of. I went over to Cedar Bluff and Gould. Previous Tom Still mayor was there and was not able to quite want where he wanted to, because he almost had strange words that include very big funds. Said he thought he was done. But we persuaded the council.
Yes, sir.
I'm Gene Larson again. Seems to me like every time they talk about the community center, everybody talks about another rush with a swimming pool and exercise, and that type of thing. Of course, we got the rush right on the hill. But I think of something bigger than that with programs for professional stage shows, that type of thing. I came from Paducah, where I lived 40 years, and since we left 17 years ago, they have built a community center that cost $40 million, but it's a beautiful place. They get professional shows in there. They don't have the recreation facility. I think we're maybe talking about two different things, really.
Well, that was part of the plan too,
Yeah.
the theater as well as
They
the
might
athletics.
combine them
Right.
somehow, but I know the one there they did build, as far as I know, it doesn't have recreation with it necessarily, but it was a $40 million, and they had a lot of community people contributing, and several people like the Coke plant contributed $7 to $10 million toward that too. I have a couple of things I'd like to just mention. I've been in Shiloh and in the area here. Everything you've talked about is mainly above ground. And in this area of here with Shiloh was built in the early 1990s. And since that time, this entire area has developed. And my concern is the wastewater. You mentioned sewers are not Farragut's problem, but wastewater is. And stormwater, absolutely, yeah. And there have been studies made several years before you got here, but the town paid for a $20,000 study by an engineering group to look at the wastewater all the way from Federal Boulevard, that's where the bank is now, all the way to Turkey Creek. And the only water, plus Village Green. When Village Green was built, there was no wastewater facilities there, no detention basins or anything like that before that time. And what has happened now, whenever we get a big rain, the water from 100 acres plus at Village Green floods across Kingston Pike. Some of you might have gone through that. Comes through Shiloh and then down. And we have a detention basin, but it's just a 4-foot pipe that was put in when Shiloh was built. In the meantime, they've added 300 houses, Coles, and now talking about it downtown right here too. But a few years ago too, in fact when they put the statue out here, they had to reroute part of that because that 4-foot line ran right under where the statue is today, and they rerouted that. But the point was that engineering in the town had more or less agreed that over a period of years, that pipe would be enlarged from a 4-foot pipe to a 5- or 6-foot pipe that comes right across all this property that we're talking about. And every one of these new subdivisions picks up the water from that, and it's really not enough to take care of that. But I hope that, and it's a long-term program, but they did this part, they have to work from this end up to our detention basin where they do that. I'm hoping that the town isn't forgetting that, because I haven't seen it in any of the, even the long-range plans.
Stormwater management is certainly a major thing that
Right.
we're in charge of. So we definitely looked at that. I've heard about that very issue as well. I think it's just a matter of seeing when we can put it in and what we can do.
Well, some have to be done in stages because it's not a cheap project.
It's a big project.
It's underground, nobody sees it, but it's still important, especially in this area. Since the church has added and caught all the water above Bel Air now into their new big detention basin, that has helped some, especially from that side.
Sure.
And it's caught a lot of water that we don't get anymore. The Village Green is still a problem, and it's tough.
Okay. Let me ask you this: anything in general about the strategic plan that you like? Anything you heard that you like? Any ideas? Yes, sir.
I would like to speak in favor of historic lighting, maybe getting priority back on it. We talked about a lot of aging buildings, and we didn't mention the 2 restaurants right there on
Right down the road here.
we're talking about putting the lighting.
Right.
That's an investment. It's an investment. It makes it less risky for someone to come in and make an investment in the those restaurants or those vacant buildings. My wife and I just recently moved here. We love to go out. We want to shop Farragut, and we'd love to see those restaurants. And to make the town more beautiful.
Years after that, so these are, when the budget gets approved, they don't necessarily approve everything going from, say, FY14, which is 2 years out, to 5 years out. But we have to plan ahead. We have to know kind of what we think we're going to be doing. All these projects can get moved at any time, back and forth. So we've got some projects. Evans Road, the extension of Evans Road, the widening of Evans Road, from the Willow Creek subdivision all the way to McPhee. The $500,000 is only right-of-way cost and engineering. Does not include construction. If you include construction, which would have been in year 6 out, and that's going to be closer to the cost of Union Road. But we can't do both of those kind of at the same time. We have to do one or the other. So right now, the priority project is to do Union Road a little quicker than Evans Road. Union Road has gotten a lot more traffic lately since the construction at Everett and Kingston Pike has been going on. And so again, that would be widening Union Road, getting us all the way to where it's fully connected there. Outdoor classroom, the additional money for Kingston Pike and Camel Station Road intersection improvements, that is putting a double left turn lane on Kingston Pike heading northbound on Camel Station. There's a lot of stacking that you'll see in the morning and afternoon especially. So again, trying to widen that up. It's a tight spot, so it's going to be a little interesting there. Widening Camel Station Road north of I-40, that's a grant funded type project, so it's kind of been pushed back, so we'll get some funding for that. McPhee Park Phase 3 and 4. We don't necessarily know what 3 and 4 is yet. We're working on our master plan right now. In fact, in the next month, we're going to have that master plan back with the costs involved. We've been working hard on that the last couple of months with McPhee. But we have 52 acres out there now, I believe, and we've developed about 15, 20, is that right? We are looking at a couple more rectangular fields, like soccer type fields across, looking at another play area, disc golf course, walking trail around the whole entire park, looking at tennis courts as a possibility out there as well. We don't have any tennis courts in town, they're municipal courts. So again, big project, amphitheater possibly could go there. That's another thing we're kind of figuring out where that needs to be. So a couple phases, we're projecting 4.1 million. We don't know, it may be a lot higher than that, it may be lower than that. I doubt it'll be lower, but it may be higher than that. So that's why we have that kind of as a whole right now. But nothing in this current year budget to do anything with the park. Anchor Park improvements, just some minor things there. I think playground soon, is that right? Trying to do some things with the playground out there. And Mayor Bob Leonard Park improvements, again, those are for volleyball courts. Trying to put some additional sand volleyball courts out there. So, then a couple other things. Kingston Pike Greenway at Willow Creek, right in front of Willow Creek Golf Course. It's trying to connect the Greenbelt Trail through that area. It's a little tight once you get to Virtue Road, so we're working with that. But that is actually a TDOT project as well, so it's an 80-20 split. We take 20 state places and pays 80. Greenway connectors, we talked about that already. Public art, that's one of the things in the strategic plan is to try to get art throughout the town. And so an item in there is to put some more public art, bronze statues at the park. And then we talked about land acquisition, $1 million a year for that. So with that, I've talked a lot. But y'all have talked a lot too, which is good. I have got Alderman Jeff Elliott and Vice Mayor Dot Lamarche both here. We'll be happy to answer a few more questions. I'm very reticent of your time, and I don't want you to keep y'all too late either. You have places to go, so we don't want you to not want to ever come back again. Yes, sir.
How were the priorities established that are published here so far?
Through the CIP? Right now, we've had
Well,
with the strategic plan? Sure. Actually, last year, we had a facilitator come in and got the plan together. We had a public forum, and they were retesting the plan at that time. And so we came back this year and just tweaked it, really from the items. The vision has not changed any from last year. The goals have not changed, but some of the yearly items have changed, what we need to get accomplished. And so we have done that, and that's what you have before you so far. So the board has basically gone through and done a lot of the work to get it to where it's at today. And so now what we're doing is making sure with everyone here that we're on the right track, that we don't need to change anything or move anything up or down. So that's, to answer your question, that's where we're at so far. Yes,
Yeah,
sir.
one other question, with the Russell House, I don't see any specific, they have land acquisition, but is there really any group really actively working on that? 'Cause that house is gonna fall down if Farragut doesn't get it pretty soon, and I sure hope they don't plan to move it, because that would be a mistake. I think it'd fall if they try to move it. But,
We have certainly been in talks with the family quite a bit about it. It's a delicate situation over there. So I can just say that right now we've got a lot of balls in the air, and we're trying to prioritize what is the most important thing for the board at this time. You know, we're talking about the community center and Russell House and Feed Park, and all these things are all cost a lot of money to do. So it's a matter of which one really, or two, may be the highest priority, and how do you fund those? And so that's kind of where we're at through this whole budget process that we're going in right now, is we'll find out from the board where they want to put these two items. Yes, sir, Mark?
I got a couple of things. Been here almost 5 years now. Back of my house fronts onto Christian Chapel Road. And in the almost 5 years I've been here, I've never seen the sheriff's department out there enforcing the speed limit. Christian Chapel Road is a freeway. The last count I had was 2010. It was over 15,000 vehicles a day. Remember when they had to close I-40 on the Tennessee-North Carolina line? And they said westbound 2 lanes, the traffic was about 20,000 a day. Well, 2 years ago, it was 15 on Richmond Chapel. It would probably take a contract with the sheriff's department. My understanding is that, you know, as far as traffic enforcement goes, they don't do that in town. They might do it if you had a contract, you know, for that purpose. I really think that should be done. I've seen really 4 bad accidents. That's when you get out there where we are. That's when you get the traffic enforcement, but it's too late. How about landscaped islands on the extension of South Camel Station between, or Concord Road? Decorative lighting is great. I think it's important. South Camel Station, when you go towards Concord Road, you go past the Kroger store, there is landscape islands. All right. I understand that's a new location there, but we're widening Concord Road to 4 lanes and center turn lane. Take part of that center turn lane where you can and build landscaped islands for traffic calming and whatnot. It's a major gateway, entryway into the town. It needs to be attractive. How about a double right turn where Grigsby Chapel Road intersects with Campbell Station Road, particularly in the morning? You're talking about the traffic backing up on Kingston Pike. It backs up on Grigsby Chapel all the way past Threats Road. If you live, I live in Wyndham Hall, so naturally I'm, you know, interested. If you live in Wyndham Hall Lane, in Wyndham Hall subdivision, and you want to make a left turn between 7:15 and 8 o'clock in the morning, you have to do 2 things. You have to close your eyes, and then you have to put the pedal to the metal and hope the good Lord is going to see you through. And so that would, now it's not going to be cheap because all that infrastructure is going to have to be relocated. When they did the widening of Camel Station, you know, hindsight is 20/20. Just like the lighting on Camel Station, obviously it shouldn't be part of the project. We won't get into that, but that would help. You know.
Okay.
To a large extent, yes. But if you live on the south side of Grigsby Chapel Road in the morning, not only Wyndham Hall, but those other adjoining subdivisions, believe me, you are in trouble because you cannot get out of there. As a matter of fact, just digressing a little bit, some of the folks that live on Fretz Road and other places where the school bus would go west on Grigsby Chapel have come over to Wyndham Hall with their cars. And the streets in Wyndham Hall are public. So they park the cars there early in the morning and take the bus that goes eastbound to school. That way, their kids don't have to go to school 30 to 45 minutes earlier. So you got a couple things going on there. That's what I was talking about, traffic enforcement. And the other thing really has to do with more of the land use plan, I guess, but historic preservation. We need a strong historic preservation element plan. Now, I think some of the things that we should look at as far as historic, and it affects the CIP, you know, awareness and appreciation of historic assets here in the town of Farragut. Possibility of setting up some type of revolving fund for, you've got acquisition and everything, but
For preservation purposes?
yeah, preservation. And looking at some type of public-private partnerships. I wanted to, on behalf of the Farragut Folklife Museum Committee, appreciate you and the mayor, vice mayor, and her husband, Admiral Farragut, and Ron Hawken and Jeff Elliott and Bob Marshall coming to Farragut marker unveiling at Farragut Park. There's a great opportunity here for, you know, we're talking about revenue now, for historic tourism. Come to the Farragut Museum, then we can tell them, hey, go out and visit Admiral Farragut Park and see right across the cove where the birthplace of Admiral Farragut. We don't want to tell them that possibility, you know, it is threatened, but you know, you can really generate some revenue. So those are the things that I wanted to share.
Great ideas, thank you. Yes, ma'am.
With the lighting at Hartford Road, when is that to take place, and are the funds already available for it? And would that require, since one side of the road is Knox County and the other side Farragut, would that require acquiring that land?
That is a 100% T-DOT project, so it's not necessarily a town of Farragut or Knox County project. They're working on it as a state route, but yes, they will have to acquire all the right-of-way through there. They're having a public hearing here, community room, I think May 31st, to talk about that project. There's plans available to look at. They're not 100% yet, but that's why they public comment to make sure that, you know, can you move this or change this, or what can you do with that? Those are what that is going to be about. One of the things that they're going to have are meetings in that area to a certain extent, not the whole way through, but to as far as they can go with them. They will have some meetings there. So that'll be a typical cross section. Now we have what we call complete streets. So if you see a street develop from this point forward, it's going to have a couple things. It's going to have a sidewalk on one side. It's going to have bike lanes involved on both sides. And it's going to have a greenway trail on another. So as the town develops over the next 30 or 40 years and redevelops and everything else, those things will slowly start connecting together. So you can get around by other ways, not just with a vehicle. Anybody else have any questions or comments? This has been really, really good. Any other things that you didn't see in the CIP that you'd like to see?
That's not a CIP thing. Is there a code enforcement on property that is vacant?
Yes, ma'am.
Or upkeep?
Absolutely.
What has happened with the code enforcement?
We contact them regularly about different
What
things.
is the fine that has
know if they've had to pay a fine. We try to work with them on getting it cleaned up, things like that. So I'm not sure about the history on fines. Could be. Let me hand out something to you real quick before you take off. I don't want to lose anybody else. This is something that I think will help us. You don't have to put your name on it at all, but give us a little feedback on kind of what you heard tonight, what your priorities are as an individual that lives here, and we'd be glad to try to get those in from you. You can just turn them in at the back, or turn them in to me, or any of the staff that are here. We'd be glad to do that, but I can go through some of these if you have any questions. This is a test, but there's no grade. There's no grade at all.
Does anyone need a pen?
We have a lot of pens if you need. Anybody need a pen? On question 4 down there, it says you had $10 million. How much would you spend on these projects? You don't have to spend it all on each thing individually. You can spend it all on one project. It's whatever you think you want to spend $10 million on those different things.